see the extension that has now been given across this whole area. So we are covering Mays, Rogers, Wagner County as this whole line of storms that has really developed even more so further south with more of a solid line all the way down to Porter. Impressive what we're seeing at this moment just to the east. So if you're in Wagner County, you're going to get hammered with heavy rains, potential for 60, 65, 70 mile an hour winds. If you're a little bit further north, especially in the Rogers and Mays County, and far eastern Rogers County now, because it's crossing into Mays County. Those are the areas. Let's go along the leading edge from Claremore and then work our way back down to the south, and we're going to take a closer look. So this is kind of the couplet area up to the north, and this is just not too far. You see here's the Tiowa area and Harmony Star. So this is where it's coming in, lots and lots of lightning, as we said, heavy rains, and then the strong winds are right along this leading edge, and then that extends back to the south, and you can see how far that extends now and how rapidly that's moving. I got out of the way there, and you can see, we'll come in a little bit closer even if you could. There you go. And that leading edge of the red is where the strongest winds it'll just slam into you really, really fast. And so you'll probably pick up, you'll go from nothing and probably can't breathe because it's sticky. And maybe we've had outflow here, so temperatures are probably around 80 to 85. But it's still going to be sticky. Then all of a sudden you're going to get hit with these thunderstorms and temperatures get dropped big time. But you can see it now moving in on Choteau, and that will continue as we look further to the south along that leading edge. Once again, we're looking pretty much right along that red area. And so it's a little different than the thunderstorms themselves, because this flow is right near and right along the area. You can see how that's just advanced by about 2 to 3 miles, where the radar indicates where the thunderstorm is located. So the flow of winds are right in that zone, and so that goes around the Maisie area, and then that is moving on to the south. It's still a pretty solid line, and you're looking at it as it moves down around the Needle City area, and then it should be coming up on Rocky Point before too long. To further, and you're getting down to the Wagner area, and so here's the Wagner area, and so that leading edge not quite as intense in the central and southern portion of Washington or of Wagner County, but the problem is that you're still going to get 50, 60 mile an hour wind potential, and you still have a chance of losing power. Worst of the power grid continues to look to move to the north. Stations put it into motion for us. You can see how that has expanded to the east very rapidly. The worst again, mainly across now western Mays County, extending back on down through central Wagner County. So you got the idea of what's happening with that. And then you also get the lightning strikes with heavy rainfall, and then you run into the flooding potential. We haven't had a flood advisory issued for the storms to the south because we haven't had rain, and they're not training in the same area, and it's just one big thunderstorm at this point, and it's moving at a pretty good clip. So that's the biggest issue we have here. Stacia, have you put together a storm track for us, Adam? All right, let's see what's going on.
All right, we're going to track that entire leading edge again of strong winds. And so this is moving to the east at about 50 miles per hour. This is going to put it in the Rocky Point, Wagner, Choteau right now. But for Rocky Point and Wagner, that's going to be about 12:50, so just a few more minutes. Crossing over Fort Gibson Lake, also heading over to Gideon and Peggs, Murphy, Iron Post, Locust Grove. So southern Mays County, northeastern Wagner County, northern Cherokee County going to get hit pretty hard with these winds coming in. Again, these winds doing damage. We've already had a few pictures coming in of wind damage up around the Owasso vicinity. Power outage reports are pouring into us now. And so this is a storm that is still going to do damage as it tracks through southern Mays, northeastern Wagner, northern Cherokee counties, and even southern Delaware, southern Adair County potentially as it continues to the east. And the vector on this is east at about 50 miles per hour. So that's what we're looking at. Again, those strong damaging winds, a lot of lightning, but again, the winds is what really could do some damage for us tonight, Trav.
All right, thanks. And we continue to look at what's going on. So much lightning, so much rain. Can't even really see if there's trees down. We have electric out and stuff. Yeah, a lot of places continue to say that. Quita getting hit hard. So a lot of folks are helping us out. So it's kind of cool along with our storm trackers. But the problem is that we are getting some reports now coming in out of Owasso of limbs down and large limbs down. So that will also add to the aggravation of what's going on. The other line of storms and some of the power, this is the power grid, and we were just looking at things. So again, about 200 customers. That isn't just people. That's like homes. So about 600 now in Tulsa.
This
That hasn't updated? Okay.
5,300
Okay.
customers.
So that just jumped, yeah. And we thought that would. So PSO, was that in Tulsa County, 5,300?
Yeah, that's Tulsa County.
Just Tulsa County, okay. So we anticipated quite a bit of power outages are going to get jumped up real quick. So these are the areas of thunderstorms. Again, the one that's the furthest to the east, not as powerful. And you can pretty much tell there's just it's not as red, and the red indicates intensity and how powerful. So fortunately, we don't have to deal with that storm as well. But you can see the two meaty ones, the red ones, are the ones that are causing the most problems. And obviously, this one is just a terrible pain. John, let's zoom in on where John is located right now. The ones to the north, I was just mentioning up around Newada, not a big deal. John's not too far from around the Inola area, and lots of lightning, it looks like. John, would you give us an update from your location right now?
Well, right now I'm in Iowa, and again, still getting a lot of rain. The wind very strong out of the northwest, probably about 45 to 50 miles an hour right now, Travis. The lightning very intense, and it is a mixture of cloud to ground and just the sheet lightning that I'm seeing out here right now. Back to you.
All right, wow. Yeah, just look at that picture. It looks almost like snow blowing across the road. And this is well behind that initial line of severe weather. So that is gives you an indication of just how powerful this storm is, how much wind is associated with this storm. So you see where John is on 412. Thanks, John. We appreciate that report. And so this line has now extended itself all the way to Shoto. Here's the strongest wind areas. And so you can see also back to the west, that now the strong winds extend from, with the severe thunderstorm warning has been dropped around the Bartlesville area. I shouldn't say Bartlesville, but Pawhuska area. So the strongest winds have been south of Pawhuska around the Winona area at 59. And so these are winds, maximum wind gusts right now. A lot of wind blowing across the area. Even in areas to the north, outside of the bigger thunderstorms, there's like 25 mile an hour. And then as you look on a little bit further to the south and west, the winds get stronger, and so that's why this is still a very potent storm that's coming in on the west-northwest sides of Tulsa. We'll take the rain. I'm not going to complain about that. Too bad it comes with a price on this one. Shower and thunderstorms, so just knocking on the door in Sapulpa at this hour. Again, strongest winds, though, continue to be a little bit further to the north and across, now moving into northern Tulsa County. So Skiatook once again, and a lot of folks without power. And if you're just streaming with us, here's this next storm system already in town. So you're going to get some more 50, 60 mile an hour winds potentially with this. And so you can see this already over the lake, Chief Cove here, Morgan's Corner. And so that gives you a pretty good estimate. The whole lake is covered now with strong wind and damaging winds at that. So hopefully boats are secured and everybody has been safe and everybody went home early and didn't have to worry about these storms. Right now, though, in Skiatook, as we said, power outages are showing up in Skiatook and this leading edge. Now along Highway 11, going from Barnsdall to Avant, back down to the Skiatook area, moving into Tulsa County, and that's, you can see Skiatook's kind of divided into Osage and Tulsa County. And so that's blowing on into Tulsa County as we speak down to around the Sperry area. So this is the next big storm coming through. 50, 60 mile an hour winds likely with this. Some gusts could exceed that. Heavy rain associated with that. And you see the, again, leading edge of that squall showing up just around the Highway 11 area. And going from Pershing to Barnsdall, back down to Avant to Skiatook, and then just west of Sperry. So that gives you a good look at that. Station's been looking at storm tracks on this particular cell as well. Station, what do you have for us?
Trav, we're going to take that leading edge and we're going to move it east at 50. So we're going to take it from Skiatook and Sperry over towards the Owasso vicinity once again. So Owasso, kind of a double whammy tonight. 12:57 for Owasso, Tulsa International, right about the same time. Now a little sooner is going to be the Vera vicinity at 12:55. Booker T, if you're around Booker T, Washington, that's at 12:53, and we're sitting at 12:50. So this is just a few more minutes. And again, those strong winds in Skiatook, in Sperry, and then tracking to the east. And so this will be over towards Highway 75 soon. Latest radar scan has just outrun my track, and so that's how fast these storms are moving. So again, that leading edge is over right now towards Highway 75, or at least hitting it in the next minute or so. Then it's going to be moving back towards Collinsville and Owasso. The strongest winds, just based on radar analysis, right over Sperry, and then maybe back up towards Tall Chief Cove. So again, that's a lot of wind, and that also would cause more power outages and more damage. So folks in Skiatook already without power. Now the wind's coming through that could knock out the rest of the power. So again, we are concerned about power outages and damage tonight. We're tracking the storm leaving Osage County, southwestern Osage or southeastern Osage County, getting into northern Tulsa County. Then we're also watching the storm with all that lightning concentrated, Trav, in far eastern Rogers County, far western Mays County. There's a lot of lightning there.
Oh my goodness.
Small area.
Yeah. Hello, summer. Man, summer is just notorious for these crazy lightning storms. And of course, ranchers don't like it at all. People don't like them because they can hit houses. Normally, lightning strikes. Can you put up positive, negative charges to see if you can see if that's possible? Because I'm kind of throwing you for a loop right now. But with these two cells, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning, as you can see, till 1 a.m. That is for Tulsa County. We have a new aerial flood warning as well. And there we go. And I just wanted to point this out. It's kind of interesting. Here's total strikes. Here's the positive strikes, the negative strikes, and gives you the percentages. So this is an ongoing computation of what's happening in real time. And normally you'll get positive strikes about 10% of the time. And positive strikes are considered hot lightning. Those have a higher potential of causing fires. So we are kind of in a higher, worse environment basically with lightning tonight because we have such a high positive rate at this point. For as many lightning strikes as there are, that is a lot of positive lightning strikes in the last few minutes. So just be advised that again, we have to be careful with these lightning strikes anyway, because lightning is so doggone dangerous and so many things can happen. So we have to be so much aware of what's going on. As we say, don't be tall, get small is the key phrase we like to use, and you just don't want to be around it. And unfortunately, you don't have any choice. Summer thunderstorms are just so powerful. So right now, this is a big thunderstorm warning area, which includes now, as we said, Wagner County, northwestern Cherokee County, which nothing's going on in northwestern Cherokee County now. That will change. Eastern half of Mays County, nothing going on right now, but that will change. Then the outflow boundary now has pushed all the way down to Lake Tenkiller and down around the Shakota area. So these thunderstorms with time are going to die down because the outflow is pushing so far away from the main part of the storms, but these are still extremely potent. And again, some of that has to do with just the amount of energy tapping into it this summer because of the system coming through, the front coming through, and the amount of warm, moist air that's above us, making it extremely unstable. And that's why we have the warnings and the flood warnings. I wanted to point out the flood warning. We also got an update on that just in the last few moments. They're extending the flash flood warning till 2:30 a.m., and that is going to be for Southern Craig, Central Delaware, Mays, Southeastern Osage, Rogers, Northern Tulsa County, not Southern, just Northern Tulsa County, and Southern Washington County will be involved in that. And rainfall amounts of 2 inches or so, and additional 1 to 2 inches are possible in some of these areas. We'll look at rainfall in a little bit, but this gives you a pretty good idea of the bigger picture of what's going on with this line of storms. So again, back to the leading edge with the strongest winds. We have the two sides that have the strongest. On the east side of town, now running to near Pryor to Shoto. This is where the winds are at the maximum. You do see just west of Sportsman Acres near Lusta area, strong damaging winds, and then these winds should be about 60 to 70 miles an hour. And shear on this continues to be very strong right along the leading edge of that, and so that's what we're seeing at this moment. And so it's already moved through the Shoto area, but even back behind the leading edge of this, where we get this 50, 60 mile an hour winds, you still have a tremendous amount of turbulence going back 15 to 25 miles. So you're going to have those strong winds, gusting winds for 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. So that's kind of unusual. You usually get that blast and cool air and big strong winds, and it's kind of like dies down pretty quick. Not this go around. Hail cores, again, very limited, but anything a little bit is involved in that. So pea size to nickel size would be possible in maybe the bigger places or bigger cells. But that's what we're seeing right now as that continues to move to the east. Lightning strikes, that's just, we can't even say enough about that. Already through Pryor, and then down to Sportsman Acres, and then now pushing off to the east to Cedar Crest, and then that's all the way down to Fort Gibson Lake. Station's doing a storm track on that and has the latest on that. What do you have, Station?
Well, Travis, these thunderstorms, they're moving a little faster, especially where you have those winds kind of bowing out on radar. You have a little curvature. So that's moving a little faster, and that's getting in towards, it's right on top of Cedar Crest now, but headed over to Pegs and Gideon, and then to Lowry to Scraper and north of Tahlequah. So we're going to put a track on this for you because as we watch these thunderstorms move through, again, it's knocking power out, it's doing damage. So the strongest winds are near Shodo and just to the southeast of town now. So we'll take that part of the thunderstorm and move it to the east at about 50. And so this is going to take it through northern parts of Cherokee County, Peggs, Gideon, and then over into northwestern Adair County around Chewy. That would be in less than half an hour. Rose will be about 104, Gideon shortly after 1 at 105, Oaks about 114, Little Kansas at about 117. So again, tracking still some very strong wind potential. We've been watching power outage numbers continue to rise from these thunderstorms. Also, we've been watching some of those wind reports come in, a lot of 50s and 60s from some of the mesonet sites around, and we also had sporadic damage reports. But the power outage numbers in Tulsa County, we've had over now 5,000 customers. We mentioned that earlier. It's up to about 5,800 now. A lot showing up in Rogers County. In fact, Verdigris Valley, they have about 2,600 customers, several hundred for PSO. So again, as these storms come through, power is getting knocked out, and we're also dealing with some tree damage. Hopefully it's not large tree limbs, but these are the kind of winds that can definitely do some damage. So we're also monitoring the storms that have moved through the Skiatook and Sperry area. Now, Trav, it's coming back into Owasso. So Owasso's picking up some strong winds once again.
Yeah, and they're going to have to continue the Tulsa County, northern Tulsa County warnings. So we're going to keep that going for a while longer. And so thanks, Stacia, appreciate that. Officially, the National Weather Service does have a severe thunderstorm warning in Rogers County, and then southeastern Osage and southern Washington, southwestern Nowata, and then northern Tulsa County. And that's going, as we said, until 1:30 this morning for a strong to severe thunderstorm that continues in that area. Do we have rainfall amounts also in there? We have wind. This next batch of wind coming in right on just west of Owasso. Not as strong as the last one was, but still gives you an idea. And here's a look. We do have some flood colors. We might take the warnings off of some of those. I think that might help if we can drop them off. Yeah, there you go. And so you can see the amounts of rainfall. And so you can pretty much see without even doing a query on what's going on this. But it is going to be ton. This is Mesonet. Okay. So these are Mesonet sites that we have. And what's weird is that some of the Mesonet sites obviously aren't where we'd like to move them just for that particular storm, because you can't move. But it'd be nice to be able to get some other samples. But radar indicates how heavy some of this rainfall has been in some of these areas. So you get on the north side around the Skiatook area, we're at 2.3 inches of rain. You know, on the south side of town, there's nothing. So this is, and a lot of our models, Aaron was doing the forecast, and I talked to him while I was driving back from Nebraska. He was saying, yeah, we're going to be, these storms are going to be pretty nasty tonight. They're going to be big, heavy producers, but they don't really go too far south. And so that's what we're kind of seeing right now. They've trained over the same areas. So we've had some flooding issues, and so the magenta color will indicate 3 to 5 inches of rain potentially in these areas. So a lot of rain gauges are filling up and flooding out. And that's why we have what you see, the blue for the area flood warnings. That gives you a really good idea of just how dangerous it is. So we're at 4.5 inches of rain around the J area. That's, again, wow, that's a lot of water. Turn around, don't drown. If you have to drive, be very aware that you're driving on a road and you're not just going to be driving someplace with a culvert washed out. That's probably one of the worst things at night. You have no depth perception whatsoever. And during the daytime, you can't even hardly tell what's going on. So at night, it's even worse. And that's why we just don't want to have anybody have any problems tonight. Water goes down after 2, 3, 4 hours, and then things improve. Right now, though, we're getting heavy rain, thunderstorm activity across the Tulsa area. And that extends through northern Creek County. So this is an active severe thunderstorm. Still strong winds with this. This is the one that was out in Pawnee in western Osage County about an hour ago. That is still moving to the east, and you can see with just so many lines, but that's all the warnings that are active at this point. So it gives you a pretty good indication of what's happening with all these thunderstorms that are here. And we're kind of in a break right now around the Catoosa area, and then Tulsa International about ready to get hammered again with strong damaging winds. So this is the strongest winds are just pushing around the Tulsa area and back to the north. And so there's a little area from Midtown Tulsa where we have rain. Lightning isn't nearly as intense with this line as the first line. And so it is weakening a hair bit. but you still have very intense rainfall and still a lot of cloud to ground lightning strikes. This number was much higher with the last group of storms that came through, but this is now around the Lake Eola area and now just west of Collinsville. Strongest winds are in advance of the heavy rain, so you get that little blast of another blast of wind. Again, this isn't like the last one going through the Owasso area. So winds that were estimated around 75 by our storm trackers to 80, those are going to be more in the area about 50, maybe 55, but it's still an orange storm. So just be advised that this is still a pretty intense situation. John is checking back into this line of storms as well. A little bit further back to the east on the other storm line, we continue to have heavy rain, thunderstorm activity, but this one seems to be weakening a little bit other than the lightning. We still have strong winds associated with it and just copious amounts of rainfall. It's now over the Salina area and just moving, again, that curvature now has moved it into northwestern Cherokee County. So this is an area that's already had some thunderstorms, and so that's kind of helping take the throttle down a little bit, or gas pedal down a little bit, so we don't have to worry as much energy to tap into, so that's nice, because this storm has been nasty here for the last hour. And as that continues to move off to the east, hopefully it will continue to weaken. There's still some strong winds along that leading edge, and so any place from the Salina area extending back through central Cherokee County, around pretty much along the Illinois River area, that's where we're going to be starting to find some of those stronger winds. Extending from Locust Grove now, and as you look, that goes down to around the Iron Post area. Then the red indicates the strongest winds are probably 50, 60 miles an hour. So I do think the winds have come down a little bit. We're getting a little bit further away from our radar, which means the data isn't as good because it's not really right at the surface. But it does help us get a pretty good indication of how strong the winds are. Now down to around the Peggs area, and then that extends back further to the south. Then you see around Gideon, and now also, it's already been through the Lost City area. But you guys are experiencing strong winds, and I'm sure some power outages. Don't forget, we're streaming live, so you can get that on our website. The only time you really can't do that is if you, like a cell tower goes out. That's the only thing that we've heard people say, well, our cell tower lost power. And most of the cell towers don't have a lot of redundancy built into them, so that they're usually pretty good, which helps, especially when you're trying to get communications going. But this is coming